Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up? Sorry we were running a little behind today, but this is our third week and we're getting things up and running. We're getting them up and running, but thank you for holding on. Welcome to RiDetroit Weekly. I am your host, Jason Hall, the Jason of all trades. Man, it has been a whirlwind 3 weeks. Week one, we really just threw this together, really trying to get messages and stuff out to people. And then Anthony, being the mastermind that he is, came up with this beautiful virtual set. And we have just grown like leaps and bounds. Week one, we had 75 views. Week two, we're knocking on the door of 300 views, man. So shout out to Kenny Stonehouse, last week's guest. You guys go to the YouTube page, go to the YouTube channel. Not only like it and comment, but subscribe. We got to get our numbers up, because the more numbers we get up, the more that we can do and more creative stuff that we can come up with to give to you. So please, not only watch, but go hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. All right, so since we're getting a late start, I want to get to it because this is going to be a goodie. This week's guest, none other than Erick Cedeno. Erick is also known as the Bicycle Nomad. I mean, this guy right now, he's got 45,000 miles to date in just over a decade on a bicycle. So without further ado, let's get him in right now so we can get this thing jumping right now. Erick, are you there?
Here, brother.
What's happening, my man? How are you?
What's going on, Jay? What's going on? Thank you for the opportunity to be in this platform with you, man.
Get out of here. Thank you for being here. I mean, I'm just being blessed being on your stage, man. So I know you're busy,
Sure.
but we're gonna try to fit it all in, or not even all of it. We're gonna try to fit the majority of it in, and if we got extra, we'll figure out that. But let's start at, first of all, let's start at the beginning, because a lot of people, you have a large following, but there's still people who don't know who you are. So let's talk about the Bicycle Nomad and who you are. Who is Erick?
Yeah. So I grew up in Miami, Florida, and fell in love with bicycles in college. It was the way I went to classes, the way I went to work. But I fell in love with commuting by bike in Philadelphia. I moved there right after college, and I just wanted to save money. I hated paying for gas. I hated paying for insurance. I hated paying for maintenance for my vehicle, plus tickets that I would be getting for parking. So I was like, I got to get rid of my car and just commute by bike. I live downtown and I work downtown. So that's really my love for bikes grew in Philadelphia. 10 years later, I went back to Miami, man, and I get bored pretty fast. So riding the same roads, I was like, man, I got to find other ways and other routes and things like that. So I started going from Miami to Key West, about 150 miles, 155 miles. And that's where I fell in love with traveling by bicycle.
Yeah, man. So I mean, you were living in Philly, so it just didn't make sense to have a car. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is when you live in an urban city,
Yeah.
is it, the best way to do it as far as fitness, but I'm sure you got to see a lot more of Philly and learn more about the city being on a bike.
Yeah, I met a lot of people too. You start engaging with people. Sometimes you get lost and you're like, hey, how do I get here? So then you meet a new friend, and it's pretty cool. Like sometimes I will get lost and I ask the cyclist, hey, how do I get here? Oh, I'm going that way. I'll go with you. And all of a sudden we
Right.
exchange an Instagram handle. Yeah.
I tell people that all the time. I say biking is an amazing social circle, that you will meet people outside of your normal box on a
Yes.
bike, and you will build a
Yeah.
whole new group of people. And that's what happened for me doing my
Correct.
thing. But yeah, I mean, so you're in Philly, you're riding around doing your thing, but like you said, you get bored quick. So what's going through, what's happening now in your mind? You're like thinking, I need to ride my bike more.
I wanted to ride more. So I moved again. I moved to Miami. I started riding my bike from Miami to Key West, 155 miles. I fell in love with traveling by bike because I would stop wherever I wanted to stop. I didn't have a computer, so I didn't care how fast I was going or how slow I was going. Um, but I would stop and I pull over to a vegan spot and I will eat food, and then I would stop and get like a ginger beer somewhere, and I just like and get coffee. And I was like, I love this, but I want to see more. And in one of my trips, I decided, I wonder if I could go from border to border. So I started looking into it, and I decided I'm gonna travel through the Pacific Coast Highway, and I went from Vancouver, Canada to Tijuana, Mexico. Man, that awesome trip.
So wait a minute. You're right. You rode 150 miles to Key West, and then
Yeah,
your next ride was across the damn country. It wasn't like,
yeah,
let me add another 100 miles to this.
I
It
told you.
was, let me see if I can ride across the country.
Yeah, I told you I get bored pretty fast. So I wanted more, and at that point in my life, I had a lot of questions, right? Where I think I was 32. So I was like, I want to know what's next for my life. I wanted to change careers. There was a lot of stuff that I wanted. I had a lot of questions and no answers. So, what best way was to get away from everything, Jason, like my job, family, everything. And I was able to listen to myself. And I fell in love again with traveling by bike, but camping out and being out in nature, and then meeting new people, and man, and then I was just always hugging the coast, in the Pacific Coast Highway. And one of the commitments that I made for myself from the day one was I wanted to travel just with maps, no GPS, no computer.
Right.
I wanted to travel the way old travelers and old explorers used to do it, with compass and a map, bro.
So when you told me that you had never used a computer, that
Mhm.
so go through the process. So once you just grab a paper map
Yeah,
and literally just start, like you said, old school orienteering. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go north. But
yeah,
you clearly don't get the detail in a map that you get in a computer. So were
right.
there times that you maybe steered off the path and added extra miles to the trip
Oh yeah,
because of the map?
yeah. Yeah, that always happens. So I use the maps. I don't know if you're familiar with Adventure Cycling Association. They're like the AAA of bicycle travelers. They have physical maps, and now they have digital maps and GPX and all that stuff. But yeah, there was times that I would add an extra 15, 20 miles, and on a bike, 20 miles one way and 20 miles the other way. That's just almost 40 miles that you're like, damn, I made a mistake. So those mistakes I try to avoid. And one of the things that I love about traveling by bicycle is that you're able to use intuition, which you sharpen your intuition the way our ancestors had their intuitions. Like sometimes when we hear in the with computers and the phone and that kind of stuff, you don't really need to use your intuition. But when you travel by bicycle, you're able to be like, something doesn't feel right.
Right.
And you don't know what that is, but then you're like, oh, okay, you are going the wrong way, or the weather pattern is changing, or this is not a good area. So you're able, and that's one of the things that I love about traveling by bicycle, because I don't use a computer, and I'm smelling the weather pattern. Oh, rain is coming, right? Or I have 3 more hours of sunlight. Again, the way travelers used to do it back in the days, bro.
What was one of your biggest challenges? I mean, when you've been on these, and like you said, so you don't look at the weather. Do you look at the weather in advance? I mean,
No,
you
I,
were talking about.
I don't look at the weather, but I also know that if I'm starting in November, which actually started October 21st from Vancouver, I knew it was going to be cold, right? So, but I also knew that by the time I got to California, somewhere in Central California, it was going to get warm, right? That's just common sense for me. But I don't check the weather. I don't check the elevations. I don't like to check my terrain. Jason, if I start doing all that kind of prep work, for me, I'm not saying that everyone should do this. I think that I actually encourage people um, to check the weather and to do that. Whatever works, right? But for me, I know that what works is not fine. It's not, if I know the elevation, if I know that I have to climb 3,000 feet, 7,000 feet in one day or 2 days, I probably would not be taking those trips, you know, because I don't like to climb. But I climb when I'm on the road, because that's the only thing that I'm able to do to continue either going south or going north wherever I'm going. You know what I mean? Like similar like life, right? Like You don't wake up and you're like, okay, my day is gonna go like that. Yeah, you have an idea how your day is gonna go, but life throws you curveball, and you're able to handle that, right? So if you're driving your car and all of a sudden now your battery is dead, or you got a flat tire in your car, you're gonna call AAA. You're gonna figure things out, right? And that's the way I'd like to travel. I like to figure things out as I go.
Have you run into a situation where you've been in like the middle of some crazy place and
Oh
you
man,
didn't, and maybe you got a flat and you just didn't have, you couldn't fix it? I mean, have you run into that unfixable situation
yeah.
where you said,
Oh
all
yeah,
right, what's the
yeah.
next? What's the next one? What do I do here?
Yeah, man. And you build character, like sometimes you get frustrated, right? But you can't take it out on anyone because you're the one that put yourself in that situation, right? And you
Hmm.
get frustrated. And now I've been traveling by bike for 12, 13 years. So I know how to channel my anger or how to channel my anxiety or things like that. Um, because I've been in so many situations traveling 45,000 miles. But yeah, one in particular, actually on this road, the Pacific Coast Highway. I was somewhere in California, Northern California, and I was climbing and I lost sunlight. So it got really dark, really quick. I'm on the top of the mountain, and I had the chain popped, and I couldn't see anything. I literally couldn't see anything. I mean, obviously I have lights, but you got to find where your tools are and all that stuff. So I just said, you know what? And I got really scared, right? So I'm like, I don't know what to do, but I couldn't call anyone. There was no reception. There's no town. So I just pitched a tent somewhere off the road. And I just say, I'm going to handle this tomorrow morning. I went to sleep, and the next morning I got up at 6:30. The sun came out, and then I was able to fix it and continue.
Wow, man. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
when,
I
when,
laugh
when,
because I can only laugh now, but that was very frustrating, man. Almost tears came out,
oh,
bro.
oh yeah, man. I would have broke something. I would have cried. I mean,
Grown man
like you
crying, man.
said, there's that ultimate. I mean, there's you like you said, it's dark. You can't see any. You don't even know where you're at. I mean, that's the ultimate in desperation. I don't know if I would have been able to handle that. You know when is the no turn back point? Do you ever take off and you say,
Oh
okay,
wow,
I
that's
do?
so
Is there like a
interesting.
safety point where you say, you know what? If I get past this, there's no turning back. Is there a point where you say, if I get to this, I'm good. I know I can turn back. I know where's the turn back point? Is there one?
Man, there is one, and you feel it. You actually feel, and it's so interesting. I was just talking to someone about that last week. So, very insightful question, because there is, and I could feel, wow, this is the no turn back. I can't go back. Every trip is different, right? Sometimes I go on a trip that is 7 days, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, right? So, but every trip has a no turn back. And it all depends on the trip, but I actually feel it. I feel as like, oh, this is the point of no turn back. Recently, I was on a 32-day trip. Just came back, and on that trip was about day number 7 or 8 that I felt that no turn back. Um, no, actually before. Let me tell you, it was day number 5. I felt no turn back. I can't go back. I could only go forward. Um, but day number 7, it was actually when my mind became focused on what I was doing. And I always tell people that the first couple of days on a trip that is 32 days or 50 days, you're gonna have your mind wandering, chattering, like, damn, I left my wife there. My wife is pregnant. Oh, my business, this, that. So you have so much chatter in your head, your job, this and that. Did I pay the rent? So, but day number 7 or 8 on this trip that I just finished, I felt like my mind just became quiet, and I was able to focus. And it's so interesting. I don't know what that's called, but it happens in every trip. I was able to focus on my trip, and I was on a survival mode, right? So you can't have all that noise in your head when you got trucks coming by, you got cars passing by, you got people walking, you don't know where you are, where you have to turn. Um, and that is when I like it, when my mind just forgets about everything and just focus on the actual task, which is moving north or moving south, wherever I'm going. and focus on one pedal at a time. Yeah, it becomes yeah, that's when you go in the present moment and the flow and all that stuff, which we could talk about that later.
Now, if somebody were to think to themselves, this sounds like a good idea. I think I want to get on my bike and I want to ride my bike across the country. Where would you suggest they start, even mentally preparing for something like this?
Yeah, mentally is the challenge. People always ask me. The first question I always get, Jason, is people ask me, "How do you prepare for this physically?" And
Mhm.
I actually tell people it is very physical. Any trip that you take is going to be very physical because you
Right.
got challenges, right? But to me, I think is as physical as it is, it's probably 20% and 80% mental, right? So I don't prepare myself more on the physical, but I prepare myself in the mental. And how I do that is, when I used to live in Phoenix, I would ride my bike year round. So even if it's 115 degrees, I would ride my bike. So I put myself in that mindset. If it's 25 degrees, if it's 15 degrees, I ride my bike. So I put myself in positions that are uncomfortable, and I would recommend people to do that, to because you're going to be challenged mentally to get up every day and to ride 50, 60, 70, 80 miles, whatever you want to ride. And my average is about 65 to 70 miles a day, and get up the next day and do the same thing over and over. Um, that takes a lot of mental,
Mhm.
I don't know what that's called, maybe toughness, or but that's where you're going to be tested, more mental than physical,
Mhm.
but I recommend people to do overnight bike camping, I call them, where you just find out where is your local campground, if it's 50, 60, 40 miles from where you live, and then just ride there, stay in a cabin, or stay in a tent, or even go visit a friend 40 miles, 50 miles, and spend the night with them. And that's how you start little by little understanding. And so and then also understanding how the bike works, and have the basic skills on how to fix your bike, because if you're going to go across the country, there's going to be a lot of sections in the country where you have no bike shops, and you got to
Yeah.
figure things out.
Man, I keep shaking my head because every time you mention something, I just keep saying, "Nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, not doing that." Um,
Yeah,
you know, because I can't imagine. Once again, you're talking about the mental preparation to make the trip, and we're talking about the physical of riding the bike, but there's also the other angle that you're doing this by yourself and you're
myself.
camping out, like
Yeah,
at different places. So the you've got the physical aspect, but then you've also got the alone time in your mind.
yeah,
That's got to be a challenge within itself to just be alone and just
yeah.
once again have that internal dialogue for that long.
Yeah, I love going inside, right? So I always said, even when I was in college years ago, I say I just want to be a better human being. And whatever that takes, Jason, I didn't know. I just told myself, I just want to be a better human being. And this actually have um, it's the tool for me to be that. I take the time for myself, um, 20 days, 15 days to just travel, go within, and you start understanding yourself better, right? Um, and I love that. I actually don't listen to any music while I'm on the road. I like to be aware of what's happening
Right.
surrounding, because again, you got trucks passing by, you're riding in a place where you're not used to the traffic pattern. So I always recommend not to listen to music, and just listen to your thoughts. And it is hard, but it becomes better. And I actually look forward, because again, I've been doing this for 13 years, and at some point someone asked me, how long are you going to travel by bicycle? I think I'm going to do it as long as I can. If I'm 100 years old and I'm able to travel, I'll do a trip at 100 years old, because I want to understand myself better. And there's no better way to shut everything out. How can you listen to yourself when there's so much noise around? Jobs, responsibilities, those kind of things. it's hard to listen to yourself, you know. And what I always tell people, like, look, you don't have to take a trip across the country. You know, even going fishing, people think it's about fishing. No, it's about being with yourself.
Yeah.
Yoga, it's about being with yourself. You know, I'm just an adventurer that I love going by bike, and I love my alone time, um, because I become a better person. I become a better human being. I become a better husband, friend, community member, and it has helped me a lot.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, you have to feel changed in a way every time you finish one of these. You know what I mean? You go out, you leave a certain way. All that time, once again, in your mind, physical, you got to come back changed somehow,
Yeah,
after one of
you're
these.
changed. You're changed. You're definitely changed. I mean, like on my first trip, someone says, by the time you finish your trip, you might as well change your name. And it is true. Like you are a
Wow.
different person, you know, you are a different person. I always tell people your DNA changes, you know, you
Right.
become a different monster, right?
Right.
In a good
Yeah,
way,
man.
in a good way. You know what I mean? Like you become stronger, man, mentally. Like Bob Marley had to say, you don't know how strong you are, where you don't know how strong you are until strong is your only option, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. All right. So we ride our bike. You took off on the first trip. Now let's get into bicycle nomad, because that's on that first trip is where you really started to develop the concept and idea of bicycle nomad.
Kind of, not really, because on my first trip, I was just doing it for myself. Then on my second trip, I went on myself. I actually traveled maybe 4 or 5 years without even going on social media. I didn't even know. I wasn't even on Instagram. It was until I shared my pictures with a friend of mine, and I was like, "Oh, she wanted to see my pictures, and she's like, "Oh my God, you should put this on Instagram." I said, "I don't know how to use it, right?" And that was about 8 years. About what? How long ago? About 7 years ago. I was like, "I don't
Mhm.
know how to use it. I don't know what the purpose is." And she's like, "No, you got to show this. This is pretty motivating and inspiring, you know, so you got to show this." I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But on that trip in 2014, I went from New Orleans to Niagara Falls, Canada, and I wanted to retrace the history of the Underground Railroad by bicycle. A lot of my friends and family were like, man, I would not do this. I would not do that trip. First of all, you're going by yourself. Second of all, you're a man of color with dreadlocks, traveling
Mhm.
through the South with Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, backcountry woods, right? Of Tennessee and Kentucky. They're like, don't do this trip. You either gonna get killed, or people are gonna harm you, or
Mhm.
you're gonna experience racism.
Right.
But man, I grew up with a mom, bro. Like I grew up with a mom that encouraged me to travel, to explore. You know, like she never punished me. I mean, sometimes I would leave the house and not come back till later, after hours, after my curfew hours,
Mhm.
and she will ask me, "Where were you?" And I will be hiking at the age of 7 or 8 years old, like in little hills and mountains where I used to live. And she's like, "Okay, next time." Make sure that you carry food, or make sure you carry a flashlight. She encouraged me, right? She never punished me. So I still believe that. I still believe that I could go beyond what I know or what I want to see more, because that's how I grew up. I grew up with a mom that she wasn't an adventurer, but she loved to travel all over the world. So she actually was an adventurer of her own way, but by plane, right? Um, so when people say don't do it, and my mind is made up, I'm going, you know, because I also tell people that if you could vision, if you could vision your way on the bike between New Orleans and Canada, that's you have the way halfway there. The other way is just mentally and physical preparation. But the first half of the trip, you should believe in yourself that you could finish that trip. And every trip, I could literally in my head, if I wanted to go from here to Kenya and travel Africa and travel the world by bicycle, I know I can, because I already dreamed about that, right? Um, so when people say don't do it, I say I'm gonna go, and I went, and I'm gonna answer to your question. I just had to tell you the whole reason how Bicycle Nomad came about. I was traveling by bike and I kept experiencing really kind people along the way. Um, and I was having the experience opposite of what people were telling me I was gonna have. People were really kind along the way in the South, like inviting me to eat, paying for my campsite, inviting me for sweet iced tea. I mean, I could tell you stories and stories about it that somewhere when I got to Kentucky, I was like, man, if if I ever built a brand, it will be to inspire people. It will be to inspire people to travel by bicycle. So little by little, again, I'm not listening to my music. I'm just listening to my thoughts and myself. And I'm like, okay, what would I call that? The next day, it will be something else. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna call it the Bicycle Nomad because people kept saying that I'm nomadic and I'm always by bike. So I'm just gonna call it Bicycle Nomad. And this will inspire people. The mission of Bicycle Nomad right there in Kentucky, when it came to my mind, was to inspire people to travel by bicycle, to see their world by in two wheels. And again, that could be your town, that could be your city, that could be your state, your country. You don't have to do 30 days trips. I just want people to be on the bike and explore beyond what they could have imagined, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you are doing exactly that. You are inspiring people. I've seen your followers grow. I'm one of them, and that's how I came across you
For
was
sure.
on Instagram. You know, I saw you and I said, this guy's story is amazing. Then I was lucky enough to meet you in New York at the Five Borough.
Yeah,
And that
that
was
was
like
awesome.
that was really not to be that dude. It was like kind of a weird dream come true, man. Because I was like, I admired you, and I'm like, now I'm in the room with this guy, and I get to really hear about what it takes to not only motivate yourself to go miles, but I was watching the evolution of you. You know, becoming a bike rider. Now you're an Instagram, uh, influencer, for lack of a better phrase. But now you've even evolved even more. You know, you called me up, you sent me a message like a month ago. You just did something with Apple, brother. We're in the Apple family together.
Yeah. So I did. I started modeling, man. Like with this Instagram thing, is amazing. You could go either way, right? You could use it for good, or you could use it for bad. You know, I prefer to use things for the good, right? And always positive, right? So, um, man, it was blessing from the sky 2 years ago. An agency, one of the biggest agency in the Southwest, the Ford agency, Robert Black, contacted me because they needed a cyclist for a campaign for a client in Germany, and they invited me in. They just saw my social media and they heard about me, so I went in there, and I kind of knew going with the conversation that I was having with the client, with the person from Germany, the company, that they needed more of I always call Tour de France kind of cyclist, right? And I'm more of an adventure guy, right? So we started talking about the kind of bike that I was riding, and he said, "Well, you're more of a bike packer. I need more of this, and maybe next time it could work." And I said, "Oh, sure." Literally, as I'm walking outside, the owner of the agency said, "Man, I like your look." I was like, "Okay." And I'm always open to opportunities, kind of
Mhm,
like here. When you call
mhm.
me, I say yes. And when we did a slow roll and all that stuff, I always say yes to opportunities that are positive. So I say, yeah, I'm willing to sign with this agency, and it's been a blessing, man. I've been doing, especially now, and with this COVID era, been able to do a lot of work. And one of the jobs that I did was the Apple 12. Um, I was on that commercial, and that was pretty cool, man.
So they get man, did they give you a phone or did they make you pay for it? Because I did an iPad commercial. And they made me buy mine.
Yeah, I actually had the Apple 8. Haven't upgraded for a while, and yesterday I upgraded to the Apple 12, but it came out of my pocket. From
Yeah,
the actually, it's so funny because it came out from the check that I got from them,
right.
so it went back to them.
That's what I said. I said, hey, can I get a free iPad? And they said, brother, we paid you enough. You can buy
Yeah,
your own out of the
yeah,
paycheck.
that's
So
what that's what
yeah,
happened. But I
man.
was able to buy one for me and one for my wife, so it's good. All
So
blessings.
you just came off your annual trip, right? You just came off a big one. You did a big leg of the Underground Railroad, right?
Yeah, I did the same leg that I did in 2014. I went from New Orleans, Louisiana up to Niagara Falls, Canada. And I wanted
Okay.
to retrace the history again of the Underground Railroad. And I could continue to do that for the rest of my life. That is a very hard trip, physically, mentally, spiritually, because you're traveling through um, routes that freedom seekers, previous freedom seekers traveled, right? So you're seeing history, man. Like there's nothing like traveling by bicycle and seeing physical building and physical history of the Underground Railroad. So spiritually, a very tough trip. But I decided to go back again, and there's so much history that you can only cover so much by bicycle, right? Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not going 50 miles out of my way. I'm going to stay right here. I'm not going 80 miles out of my. I'm going to stay right here. There's another. So I could go back next year and see the route differently.
Mhm.
And next
Yeah,
time, I'm not coming through Niagara Falls. I'm coming through Detroit.
you know what I'm saying? I will say I got a little bit of a bone to pick. You were like 2 hours away from me in Ohio,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
didn't even link up. I'm like, I could have came
yeah,
down there and rode with you. I mean, I
yeah,
wouldn't have been able to keep up with you because you're a much better rider, but I would have liked to have seen you. Right now, we're running some photos. You can't see them, unfortunately, but we're running photos of your trip, so people can see really, some of the stuff you. Right now, we're looking at a log cabin, and you're standing on the porch of it right now, and that, I mean, just the scenery of this trip is just amazing. Yeah, and
yeah,
the cool thing is you really get to see a part of America. I always talk about the real America. You told me a story yesterday, and I asked you, I said, what's one of the scarier stories that you've had? And you told me a story, and you can tell everybody that story in a second. But what I took from that story is actually that America is a much better place than people make it out to be. Can you fill everybody in on that story real quick? Because this is a goodie.
yeah, yeah. No, and I got stories like the one I'm about to tell you. We could be here on part 2, 3, and 4. There's so much stories, and but this particular one, I usually don't tell people that I'm going on a trip, but because it was a historical trip in 2014 and traveling the Underground Railroad, I told a lot of my friends and family, and they were like, "Nah, you should not go on this trip. You're gonna get killed. People are gonna harm you." So I stopped telling people because I didn't want to go with that fear. And I went for the first time on any of my trips with a little fear in me. So I took off from New Orleans, and I, instead of going north, I went west towards Mobile, Alabama. It's about 155 miles. And I said, okay, I could break it down in 2 days. And on the second day, looking at my map, I knew I was gonna go through a dirt road, and the dirt road was about 30 miles, and I knew I was gonna run out of water. But it was okay. It's the thing that you have to do to keep moving to your destination. And but I was so hot, and I drank all my water, and I had 3 bottles of water. I drank because it was so humid. Drank all my water, and I said, okay, in about an hour and a half, I could make it maybe 2 hours to a destination where I could get some water. So I kept pedaling, kept pedaling. My throat started hurting because it was so dry from not drinking water. Um, and I'm on this dirt road. I haven't seen any car, right? So I'm enjoying myself, right? Because I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. All of a sudden, a pickup truck, maybe like a Ford 250, passes by. Boom. And they stop about 200 feet from me. And they stop, and they reversed. I said they're reversing. All I could see is the Confederate flag in the vehicle, in the lift of the vehicle. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was that I saw a shotgun in their cabin as they're pulling back. Is it's clear, and I could say, "Oh shit." Sorry, I said that, but that's what came out. Um, and I became scared. I was like, wow, for the first time, you know, traveling by bicycle, I've never been afraid of things, but that experience was hard. And they kept reversing, kept reversing. Man, I could hear my heartbeat, boom, 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 and I was just nervous. And I got off my bike and I said, okay, if I have to throw my bike off, and I just take off on in the woods, I'm just gonna do that. I was just trying to figure out my exit, and they
Yeah.
started reversing. They got next to me, Jason, and they lowered the window. And the lady, there was a lady and a man driving, and the lady in the passenger. She lowered the window and she said, "Hey, where are you going?" I was like, I don't have to tell you where I'm going, right? But I just said, I'm coming from New Orleans. And she's like, where are you going? I said, I'm heading to Niagara Falls. On your bike? I said, yeah. She said, we just wanted to know because we saw you about 20 miles from here. We were cutting grass and we were wondering, where is that guy going? Because my bike is full of things, right? My camping gear and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, in my bike. She said, that is crazy. Hey, she says, hey, oh, the driver says, hey, are you thirsty? You want any water? And I'm like, oh my God, these people are angels, right? I'm telling you, my throat was like really like dry. And I'm like, I went around the vehicle, hugged them, and I said, thank you. You guys are angels. And they pulled out a cooler. And in my head, I'm like, who travels with a cooler full of water, right? Who travels? I never have, unless I'm going to the beach or something like that. And I'm like, what a what a timing, right? So they allowed me, they had about maybe 25 bottles. I must have drank 22 of them. And yeah, it was so funny, man. I was just like, and then fill out my bottles. And then so in the world of adventure cycling and hiking, we call those people trail angels, and they just
Mhm.
pop up just to help you out, kind of the way that previous freedom seekers were helped on the Underground Railroad, right? Regardless of the skin color, there was people trying to help some people. Yeah, there was people that were very mean and hurting our ancestors, but there was a lot of people, man, that were helping other people. So I just said, man, literally, they took off. I took time to relax because again, that was kind of like a rush. And I
Mhm.
said, man, I'm protected. I'm protected. I don't have to worry about nothing. If this experience
Mhm.
happened like this, there's a higher power that is taking care of me, you know? So I didn't
Yep.
worry after that, man. I was just,
Man, good things happen to good people, man. And
man,
you, like you said, those angels were there in the right place at the right time, man.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what is next? You know what I'm saying? We've been on already. Like you said, this thing could go 2-3 hours easy. We almost are at 45 minutes. What's next for Vice?
Okay,
What's next for you, brother? Where you know
man,
you made some moves. You're not in Phoenix. You're moving to Cali now.
yeah,
What's up
yeah.
next? I mean, besides, hold on, you just got married. Congratulations,
I got married in
and
February.
you got a baby on the way. So
I got a
congratulations. So we
baby on
know
the way.
that that's
Baby
going on.
Nomad
But
coming by.
you know what I'm saying? What's next for you, brother? What's next?
Well, you know, the family life is very important for me now that I'm building my young family. So luckily, I married the perfect person for me. And I said, you know, she might not be perfect, but she's so perfect for my soul, man, because she's so adventurous. And not only that, but she also understands that I need my space to go out and explore, right? And she loves the bike, but she can't go as far as I can, right? And she understands that. But our thing is to raise this child to be the next baby nomad, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of responsibilities now with the brand growing and the family coming. So I will continue traveling by bike. I will continue to inspire people. I will continue to inspire myself, first of all. Um, so I have a new partnership with Blackburn Designs. They make lights and they make bags,
Mhm.
and we got some cool project coming down the pike. Um, I have another partnership with State Bicycles out of
Yeah,
Phoenix,
man.
Arizona, Tempe, Arizona. Yeah. Did
That
you see
bike
the
is
bike?
awesome. Yeah, man. There it is. We're looking at it right now, actually, on the screen. This bike is amazing. And what's amazing about this bike is not only is it technically sound, but it's affordable.
That's it. You hit it. So to me, I wanted to partner with companies that people are able, so the lifestyle could be more accessible to people, right? I want people to see the things that I have seen, but also feel the compassionate and the love that people have given me on the road. So you have to go on bike trips beyond what your comfort zone is. As a matter of fact, people ask me like, "What's one of the things that you learned from bicycle traveling?" And the first thing that came to my mind was you learn how to be comfortable outside your comfort zone when
Yep.
you're traveling by bicycle, right? So I always tell that to people. But yeah, more partnerships. My mission was always to inspire people to travel by bicycle. But it's so important for me to have people of color to get into the lifestyle. You know, one of the things that we're lacking, not only in cycling, but in the adventure cycling, in the outdoor industry, is that we don't get to see a lot of people like me or like you traveling, right? So I want this to be a normal thing. Like right now, people are like, wow, this guy with dreadlocks traveling here. Yeah, but in the future, I want this to be so norm that that it's not going to wow people, right? Had so many experiences traveling by bicycle. One experience that I had a lot of positive experience, but sometimes you get scared when you're camping out and you're the only person of color, and it's because the stare is not of malicious, or it's not of a negative thing, because you could tell the stare is just of, damn, I never seen a person of color camping up here, right? So I want this to become more norm. So my job now, and luckily with the partnership of Blackburn and State, is to I'm able to partner with companies that have a bigger reach than I'm able to do right now, right? So my hope is to get more partnerships, work with people like you, because now, yesterday when we had this call, I hung up and I said, man, I would love to work with Jason. I also have admired you for many years, man,
Stop it, man.
because
Stop it.
yeah, no, for real. Like the stuff that you did with Slow Roll and that movement, man, that you created in Detroit. And I go everywhere, and people will say, "Man, have you ever been to Detroit? Like they love bikes." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know one of the guys that started that, right?" So, and I tell them and I show them your Apple commercial, and so again, I want to work with you, and I think the next how we could link up is maybe do a tour, a ride Troy with the Underground Railroad, man. That's it
Whew.
right there. Yes, sir. I'm gonna come up,
Absolutely.
and then we're gonna work, maybe work on that for future tours in Detroit, because there's so much history, right, of the
Mhm.
Underground Railroad right where you live, man.
Oh, don't even joke, because we're definitely doing it, man. I'm always looking. I say bike rides are not just about the bike ride, but they're also about the experience. So that would be the perfect experience to get people out on, man. Do you have? I'm gonna. I know you're busy. You literally pulled over off the road to do
Yeah.
this for me right now. So I'm gonna let you go. But do you have any last words? I hate to say last words. You got any final words for this interview that you want to say to people before I let you go?
No, a lot of people always say like, why did you take this trip in a time of COVID, in a time of election, in a time of social injustice? And man, when you have the passion for travel, when you have the passion for adventure, you literally feel suffocated when you're not able to do that. You know,
Mhm.
I felt like I was losing myself, right? Because I couldn't go anywhere. So I just did it very responsible. I knew that I actually, Jason, I encounter less people while I'm traveling by
Right.
bike than when I'm here. There's so many people, right? So
Mhm.
my point is, I want people to continue to live their truth, you know, and continue to explore, and continue to go beyond what they think is their comfort zone. And that's it, man. We'll leave it as that.
Brother, once again, I cannot thank you enough for this. I've been meaning to do this for the longest time. And yes, we are going to get together and
For
plan
sure.
something. I mean,
For
this is,
sure.
you just made my day, man. Thank
For
you,
sure.
thank you, thank you, Eric. I'm gonna
You
hit
did
you
as
up.
well.
You get back on the road when you get to where you're going a little bit later. Hit me up, and then we'll talk about doing a part two, man, because I want to get a little more in depth on how it feels to be a person of color on the Underground Railroad. You know what I mean? It's not just a bike ride. That's part of your soul. So I'm gonna, like I said, when you get to where you're going, let me know, and then we'll do a part 2.
Let's do it.
All right, my
All right,
brother. I'm
bro.
gonna let you go.
Much love.
I'll see you soon. I love you,
All
man.
right. Love you too, brother.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, once again, sorry we were late, everybody, but it was worth the wait like I knew it would be. If you do not know who Erick Cedeno is or the Bicycle Nomad, you are failing. Go follow him on the Instagram, on Facebook, I mean, everywhere. YouTube, I mean, he is as big as, bigger than me. I'm just the guy trying to get out there. He's the guy out there. Next week, once again, we're going to keep it rolling. I got my homie, Anthony Taylor. Anthony Taylor is out of Minneapolis. He actually runs the Slow Roll in Minneapolis, among 10 other thousands of things that he does. I mean, this guy, if you're talking about serial entrepreneur, he is that guy. So make sure you tune in for Anthony Taylor next week. And we're launching a new website, RiDetroit, finally. We are going to be launching that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So stay tuned to RiDetroit. And if another thing, also, make sure you subscribe. You see that button popping up there? Subscribe. I know you like it. I know you want to comment, but we have to get subscribers. Trust me. Keep me out of trouble with my boss. She will come after me if you do not subscribe. So get subscribing. Another thing is, we got an amazing deal going on a bunch of rental bikes from last season at Electric Avenue Bikes. So if you want to come by and check them out, I mean, a ton of low mileage e-bikes, great bikes to get started on in the beginning, to get your feet wet. Come by the shop. We're open tomorrow until 3 o'clock. And then after Christmas, we go back to some other hours, but you can always call 313-752-1186. And I also want to talk about the excitement that we are only a few weeks away from starting our first ever bike. I don't want to call it bike maintenance class because we're really teaching all aspects of bicycling. We're teaching marketing, we're teaching maintenance and repair. We're partnered up with the Downtown Boxing Gym, so I'm super excited. We're only 2 weeks away for that. So get it going on. And before I go, I do want to thank my sponsors. Okay, I want to thank Loomis Helmets. If you don't know a little about Loomis Helmets, hit me up. They are one of the first helmets that actually have blinkers. They have brake lights. They have 77 programmable different patterns. And they have MIPS, and they have definitely, they're safety rated. They're not just a gimmick. So definitely check out Loomis Helmets. I also want to thank Griffin Claw Brewing. They have supported me since day one. I want to thank Electric Avenue Bikes and American Cycle and Fitness, because without them, we wouldn't have a roof over our heads or a place to sell bikes. So thanks to those guys. I want to thank Wingman Water for keeping us hydrated. Oh, the other way. Trust me, we actually drink it. You know, like people think we just get it to give away to people. No, we actually drink more of it than we give away. I hope they aren't watching to hear that, but maybe they do. And last but not least, Tap Beverages. Tap Beverages supplies us what is called the juice, the finest in nitro cold brew coffee. If you want to check them out, they make cold nitro brews. I can't say cold brew, sorry, different thing. They make nitro brews. They also make flavored sodas. So definitely check out Tap Beverages. Stop by the shop. We keep a keg on tap. Taste it, all right? And last but not least, I know you're tired of hearing my voice because Erick already killed it, but every Saturday I go live at 11 a.m. for Murals in the Market Live. This week I will be going live from Detroit Hustles Harder, down in the heart of Eastern Market, and my guest, Woes, out of Hawaii, man. So definitely check that out. Go to the YouTube channel, check out previous stuff that we've done. All of my interviews live there, all the previous episodes. And once again, please subscribe. You don't understand how much this is costing. Please just hit the button, okay? And to make it even better, when we get 100 subscribers, we're going to do a drawing and we're going to give something away. We're trying to incentivize you people. Right now, I'm at 25 subscribers. By the time this ends, I need to see 100. All right? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to RiDetroit Weekly. Once again, Anthony Taylor next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we are out of here.